and like the App Store in general, another thing that I've seen a lot of is privacy and more of all the talks about scam apps that people have been bringing up over the last few months. I had a live chat with one of the guys who's really spearheading this whole there's so many scams on the App Store a few weeks ago. And when I saw the changes to the guidelines, I was like, it's got his name, Kosta, written all over these guidelines, if you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. And they should have just named the guideline after him.
Yeah. Little addendum.
But now, we are actually, there are actually a couple facets of this. So for one, we as developers are allowed to rat out scams that we see, which is kind of cool. We're actually
Finally.
Yeah, we're able to report apps that we find. Like, I'm like, yeah, they probably noticed this guy's doing all this work, and he's pointing it out on Twitter. Why don't we just get him to write it directly to us? I think that's great. But the other one is that if you get rejected because, again, like if someone thinks you're a scam and you're not, you get the ability to. Again, this is sort of like when you can appeal a rejection in general, but like you can specifically call out that you think you're being singled out for a political reason. I think about these. What was the social media app that got pulled off
Parler?
Recently? Parler, that was it. This is like the Parler rule. Like basically, they're able to say, "Hey, you just don't like us because we're conservative." Like you're able to at least voice that. And it shows that Apple at least wants to listen. I mean, whether or not that's going to make a difference in their decision making, I don't know. But Parler is back, I think, on the store. So, I think that Apple is trying to be, at least publicly looking like they're being more fair and giving you a voice. And I think that's a good thing. But I do worry a little bit about competitors coming in and saying like, "Oh, he's a scam," just to try to slow me down. But I don't think that'll happen too much. What do you think?
Yeah. I think it will happen at the same extent that it's happening now. If you look at fake reviews, not fake reviews, but scam reviews, or not spam reviews is what I'm thinking about. We get those on our app all the time. Increase your downloads, click here, or call this number, or find this on WhatsApp. And it happens. I don't think it's going to happen anymore any less. I think it's just now there's going to be a mechanism to more easily at least attribute that to something. The question is, who's going to be reading all of them, and what's the process like on the Apple side to go through and say, okay, what are the steps? Step number 1, check out their website. Step number 2, download the app. I would love to know what those are. I think that's going to be a pivotal one.
I totally agree. Every year there's a bunch of, whenever there's new guidelines and the guidelines change ever so slightly, there's going to be somebody who gets rejected who shouldn't have been. And that becomes a big brouhaha, right? It happens a couple of times every season, right?
Yeah.
And I think part of my complaint with the App Store review guidelines and everything else has never been okay, Apple has to stay gray. I don't think people get the legality of a multi-billion-dollar company, how easy they are to sue if they put things in plain black and white. And so I get why the language is a little fuzzy. It gives them wiggle room to say, I want to pull this out. I don't want to pull that. But I really feel like the App Store review team, again, beautiful, wonderful people. They've always been nice to me. Every time I've had a rejection I thought was totally uncalled for, I would just call them out and I'd say, hey, I don't believe this. Look, here are the 5 reasons. And they don't tell me why. They don't say, yeah, Joe, you're right. They just immediately approve my app. Right? So, but I know some people have had less luck than that. So what I would like to see with the app review team, to your point, if there are going to be a lot more people reporting things and there's going to be a lot more feedback, that feels to me like they need to A, staff up and get more people out there, and then B, make sure that the word is coming down from on high. What exactly does this guideline mean?
Yeah.
Because right now we kind of have a willy-nilly where some reviewers interpret it one way and some reviewers interpret it another way. And now you're left with that whole, is this going to be approved tomorrow or not? And this is kind of a critical update. And I really, I've done things where it's I'll put something in the app and 5, 6, 7 versions later, they'll call me, they'll say, hey, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, you've approved the last 6. So why suddenly is this a problem? Those kinds of things really frustrate people. So the more that they could say, here are the rules, hard and fast, internally, they don't have to tell us what their mechanism is, but just say, don't ever reject someone for this sort of thing. I'm sure there are many notes. Yeah, exactly. I'm sure there are many notes in my file. They're don't reject this guy over this one again, please. Because he just gave us so much of a headache over that. He just wouldn't shut up about it. So we just let him go.
I would love to see our file.
Yeah, yours has to be way worse than mine.
Moving on. But yeah, I think this is definitely all the privacy stuff is going to be very interesting because they added privacy stuff both on the terms and the guidelines of what you can and can't do. And like you were saying, they are a little bit vague. So they say your app is supposed to do something that adds value. That hasn't really changed over the years, but they're slowly tweaking it, I think, to the point where they can slightly less arbitrarily, but more forcefully remove apps that are scams. So I think Kosta in our live chat a few weeks ago brought up a dog whistle for your Apple Watch that costs $520 a year.
Oh my God.
So you can say, well, if someone really wants a dog whistle and they're willing to pay $520 a year, why should Apple be the gatekeeper there?
Right.
But, they're also not really making it obvious that you're going to pay so much money, and they're forcing you to pay all this money. And I think the new guidelines are going to make it easier for Apple, like you said, $1 billion company, the $1 trillion company, to move their lawyers and defend themselves in case where someone actually tries to, just be annoying and try to waste their time. And I think that's really what it's all about.
Yeah.
So I like
exactly.
that.
It's like most places, one or two or, a handful, but in case of Apple, a handful is millions probably of bad actors, like making it bad for the rest of us. Right. And so that's the trick. It's all a matter of scale and percentages. So the reason why you're able to find so many scams is because it's such it's a market that like is very attractive to scammers. Right. So I can't even begin to imagine how hard it is for Apple to keep up with it. I mean, they say they reject hundreds of thousands of apps, every year. That are obvious scams, but then how do you get the ones that are like, and you could look at one app that you happen to find through a search and say like, hey, how did they not catch that one? Well, it's like, well, that was one. They caught 600 that day and they missed this one. Right. So like, that's the kind of scale we're talking about. It can't be easy, but they do have to get better at it. I'm not trying to give them an excuse for that. Yeah. I mean, they have to keep cracking down on it. So if these guidelines help with that, great. I was very excited about the guideline that said that if your app creates an account, you have to delete an account. You have to have a delete button somewhere in the app. That made me very happy because now I can finally download Facebook one last time and delete my Facebook account. The last time I tried that, I couldn't figure out how to do it. It was like worse than canceling a gym membership. It was like no. Go to here, do this, do that. I couldn't even log in at first, and because I haven't logged into Facebook in like 15 years. And so I'm just waiting for the day when I hear that delete button is in the app, so I can go press it. Now, knowing Facebook, they won't actually delete my data anyway, but
absolutely
it's weird. And again, that's a perfect example of a fuzzy guideline that, what does delete my account mean exactly? Does it mean delete all my data too? Does it mean this? Does it mean like I start the process of deleting and then like I get to send you 5 emails saying, please don't go? Or is it like, does it actually have to like kill the account right out of the gate? Like Apple hasn't made that clear yet. So I think, that one's there are going to be some rejections over that one for sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I can see that. I don't think the rejections are going to come for Facebook. I think they're going to come for all the smaller players who don't know how to defend themselves just quite as well. But hopefully I think it's an evolution. If you've seen the guidelines, I remember a long time ago when Apple just introduced subscriptions, I was talking to someone from Apple at WWDC, someone that I've known for a long time. And I asked them, how do you intend to enforce not, every app going and charging subscriptions? Do you have any rules, anything in place? And he goes, no, not really. Said, we'll figure it out as we go along. And I'm sure there was a little bit more to that he couldn't tell me about back in those days. But the mindset of we're willing to evolve, we're ready to evolve, we'll just evolve. I think that's the right way to do it. That's why A/B testing is so crucial to metadata.
So true. Yeah, Apple has the ultimate A/B test. How many years of not having A/B testing, and now like we'll see. But yeah, no, I agree. Apple moves slower than we all want them to. But I agree that they do. The App Store has changed so much more than people give them credit for.
Absolutely.
I think people forget exactly how like waiting 7 days for a review used to be. And some of the really crazy arcane stuff we had to go through that isn't there anymore. And some of the rules that have changed. I mean, we used to not be able to talk about DubDub until September, right? When the actual release came out. So yeah, the fact that they've changed quite a bit. I mean, videos, being able to be public and things of that nature. Again, not perfect, always slower than we want it to be, but moving in the right direction, at least I think.